Hi, folks. Dr. Jim Gishwin here, PhD. Happy 4th of July. Let's talk about America and power. You know, when this nation was formed, well, I'm going to tell you right now on the offset, you don't understand that half of this world lives under autocracy. Half of this world is not free, completely. And there's a lot of other countries that are partially only free. We are the last resort. Americans used to go colonize Australia, for goodness sakes. They thought that was a good deal. Now that's becoming very woke over there, too. Remember the tennis player they wouldn't allow in? Anyway, I love this country. This country was such an experiment. Never before in history, and never since, has a government given up so much of its power to the people. Okay? The people back then in other countries thought these people were nuts. Okay? They thought they were nuts. And it was never intended to be a democracy. We saw how that failed eventually with the Greeks. All right? Mob rule doesn't work. Democracy is mob rule. Okay? Pure democracy is mob rule. That means everyone decides. Well, if everyone decides, what the hell are you going to do? All right? You can understand that. I know you can. Well, the history of most empires and great nations in world history has been about 300 years, between 250 and 350. And we're approaching that. And I think that's what Barack Obama was sitting there signaling when he sat there and said that we were no longer, that we were a declining power. I'm sure he was smart and he's a student of history. Well, we don't have to be. This can be an American century, too. You got to understand, it's all about power. And the beautiful thing about our Constitution, and I love our Constitution, is that it can be changed with amendments. And that's how we sat there and fixed some of the faults we had at the beginning. And that's how we can fix some of the faults we have now. Okay? Not by adopting socialist or redistribution of wealth. I told you before, redistribution of wealth has never worked, never will, because the more you tax the rich, the less they're going to pay in taxes, and they'll get poorer, and the burden falls on the poor. The burden falls on the poor. Even though they're getting more money, inflation is going to kill them. So you got these two sides meeting each other to where the rich people don't want to produce no more. The poor people are getting money. They don't want to sit there and work. And then you got no tax revenue. And then your system fails. Remember, when you take from one person, you got to give to another person. It has to come from somewhere. It's just not magic. There's not a money tree out there like we used to say when we were kids. Dad, where's that money tree? Actually, it's probably in Washington, D.C., along with George Washington's cherry trees. But anyway, let's get back to the subject, okay? When Marx wrote his books, there was no middle class. So, to have conflict of the oppressed and the oppressors, what do they have to do? They have to divide us somehow. So ever since Obama came in, we've had kind of racial divisions and racial strife. Why? We weren't having all that racial strife in the 90s and 80s. And in the early 2000s, we weren't having it. Okay? People were getting along. The black middle class was thriving and growing, except for the middle cities run by Democratic governors. And I already told you how to fix that. Enterprise zones. Anyway, not giveaways. You don't go in there and just buy the votes and leave, like the Democrats often do. They go in and say, hey, we're here to help you. Vote for us. And then they vote for them. That's why, for so long, Democrats counted on the black vote as a given. They'd go in there, say, and then they'd disappear, and nothing would get done. I think the black population, at least my black students in my high school that I teach, they're aware of that. They say, this is division. They're trying to divide us. Of course, they need conflict. They've taken over the schools, they've taken over the media, but they still have to have conflict. Okay? Marxism does not come about, communism does not come about without conflict. We learned that from the Bolshevik Revolution and from Venezuela Revolution and all sorts of other places, the Cuban Revolution. Now, let's get back to this. Government always seeks to grow power. I teach my students this. Always. Let me do it, Joe Biden. Government always wants more power. And where does that power come from? Your freedoms. You. Your rugged individualism. Your family bonds. That's what you have to fight against. That's your power. Your power are your rights, your family bonds, and don't forget family, because they're trying to destroy that too. Okay? BLM had that right in their website. And they're a Marxist organization, and they said so in their website. So don't tell me they weren't Marxists. They are, and they bragged about it. Now, your power, prayer, and God, and your rugged individualism. Rugged individualism is what made this country. It's what made those poor immigrants sit there and struggle and travel westward through Indian country and through all sorts of strife, starving on the way. That's what made this country great. Rugged individuals who dared to dare. That's what I need you to do. We all need to dare to do something. Someone once said, tyranny thrives when good men turn their backs. And evil does too. Tyranny is evil. Marxism is evil. Why do you think they shut down the churches right away at the beginning of the pandemic? That was a good excuse, wasn't it? Even that Crystal Palace out in L.A. where they were trying to do things just in the parking lot. Tell me what COVID problem that was. Control. Power. Control. You can either choose to be a citizen or a subject. Okay? Right now, we are being ruled by a despotic bureaucracy, an administrative state out of control. Congress delegated all the details to the administrative state, to the executive department, but the executive has no authority over these people because of the unions. So tell me we ain't between a rock and a hard spot. Remember, keep your power. Let's all be Power Rangers on that, okay? I hate to bring up pop cliches like that. Actually, I do. I'm full of them. That's not all I'm full of. But anyway, we need prayer. We need God on our side. God gave us this land. Remember, we used to think this was manifest destiny that God gave us, that like we were entering the land of Canaan. Okay? Freedom. A new start. Well, let's have another new start. And let's sit there and preserve our Constitution, preserve our Bill of Rights, preserve our individual, rugged individualism power. And with that, God bless you all, and God bless America. I love you. Take care. I remain your humble servant.